Okay, boys and girls, we are going to read a realistic fiction story called Soccer Shootout by Jake Maddox. Now, I want you to know that when you read stories, it is important to stay involved with the text. And good readers ask and answer questions to stay involved and connected to what they're reading. Now, you can ask and answer questions for a number of reasons, such as to make predictions, clear up anything that you're unsure about, or to think more about the text. That's what I do when I'm reading. I kind of thinking about, well, what is the character going to do? What is going to happen next? I kind of go over what has been happening. If I'm not clear about something, I ask myself questions about what I have just read. It's important that as you're reading, you're always thinking about what you're reading. Now, let's look here. Let's look at, we have a chart here, our anchor chart. It says ask and answer questions. Asking and answering questions before, during, and after reading helps you make predictions. You're going to predict what's going to happen next. And then you could think, am I right? Clarify things that might seem unclear. Think more deeply about the text. That's what you want to be doing. You want to be thinking deeply about the text. And you think about, when is this happening? Who is this person? What will this be about? Where in the text can I find an answer to my question? And why did the author write this? These are all questions we are asking as we're reading. So that's what we're thinking about as we read. And we're going to practice asking and answering questions when we read Soccer Shootout. I think you're really going to enjoy this story because so many of you play soccer. Now, let's kind of turn to, let's think about our story. Now here's what we're going to do. Let's look at our genre information. Let's see, our information. So this is realistic fiction. Now we've read realistic fiction before. And that is a story that tells a story about characters and events that are like those in real life. Authors of realistic fiction tell the story through the plot, which is the main events of the story. Realistic fiction includes characters who act, think, and speak like real people. So these could be people that you might know in real life. Maybe the character in the story might be like somebody who could be in your class. Could be somebody like somebody you know. Realistic fiction includes dialogue and informal language to make the conversation seem real. So it seems real to you, boys and girls. And some realistic fiction includes a theme or a lesson. So we might have a theme here or a lesson that the characters learn, something for you to learn about, a lesson that you could learn. So here's what I want you to do, boys and girls. I want you to think about ways an author makes the character and events seem real. What are some ways that you might relate to the characters in the story? So what I want you to do is I want you to kind of look through the story, look at the pictures. And the first few pages. We can kind of look at the introduction because there's an introduction to the story on page 374. You can kind of look at that introduction and the first few pages, and that'll help us kind of think about why we're going to read this story. And so we can think about ways an author makes the characters and events seem real. And what are some ways you can relate to the characters in this story? Logan, how do you think you could relate to the characters in the story? Not right this second. So how do you think you could relate to the characters in the story? Can you relate to the characters in the story? Teddy?
Being good at soccer.
Being good at soccer. You're good at soccer like the character in the story? Yes. Being a goalkeeper. You're a goalkeeper like the character in the story. So let's write down, boys and girls, what are some ways that you can relate to the characters in the story? Because you're kind of looking at the pages. You were able to skim through the introduction. So I want you to write a few sentences to go with that. Logan? Yes, sharpen your pencil now. Okay. So what are you going to write there? Okay, did everyone have a chance to write something? Yes. Good. So boys and girls, we're going to meet the author. Let's meet the author of our story. I think he's right here. So here's our author. Our author is Jake Maddox. And Jake Maddox combined his love for writing with his interest in all kinds of sports when he became an author. It's a combination that works because he has written more than 80 books. Some are about team sports, while others feature adventures in nature. Whatever the activity, his stories revolve around teamwork and characters who strive to be the best that they can be. He hopes that his readers will see themselves in his characters and do the same. So that's about him. They don't have anything about the illustrator today. So boys and girls, how might his work fit into a module about teamwork and working with others? How do you think he fits into that? Juliana?
To show us how to be, if you're on a team, to not be mean and not be, and not follow your teammates' rules and follow your own rules.
Okay. Anybody else have an idea how his work could fit into that module? Teddy?
Maybe being a good teammate.
Being a good teammate. What do you think, Ivy?
Using teamwork.
Using teamwork. Very, very good. Okay, so now boys and girls, we're going to read our story. So are we ready for our story? Soccer Shootout by Jake Maddox, illustrated by Matthew Shipley. I want to just do one page at a time.
After helping to win their school's first ever state soccer championship against the Cosmos, Peter and Burke are looking forward to another soccer season. At spring tryouts, both boys are working hard to practice their skills. Peter is a star forward. Burke is the goalkeeper who had saved the day in the state championship. Peter tells Burke that he heard there is a new student at school who will also be trying out for goalkeeper. Burke meets the new boy, Ryan, who is very confident. Burke is worried and a little apprehensive going into tryouts. Tryouts. It didn't take long for the differences between Burke and Ryan to become clear during tryouts. As they worked on various drills, Burke was clearly better at many of the technical parts of the game. He made good decisions on when to come out of the goal to challenge a shooter or to pick up a loose ball. He always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. When shots were taken on him, Burke made solid saves and controlled the rebounds. Ryan was a little wilder in the goal. He took unnecessary chances coming out of the net to challenge a player when it would have been smarter to stay back. He often found himself out of place. Apprehensive. If you are apprehensive, you are worried something bad might happen. Technical. The technical parts of a sport are the basic skills and understandings that are needed to play.
Okay, I think I'm probably going to have to ask and answer a lot of questions in this story because I don't know a lot about soccer. So I'm going to ask myself questions and answer them to make sure I understand what is going on. So after reading the first page, I know that the two boys are trying out for the position of soccer goalkeeper. Now I seem to realize that they both have different styles of play. Is that what you guys understand too, that they have different styles of play? And so I can ask myself, how are the styles different? I can answer that by saying that Burke is a better technical player. Ryan is a better athlete, but he seems a little wild. And then I could write notes with my questions and the answers as I find them. So boys and girls, we can take notes in our book on the side where it says my notes.
But Ryan was a better athlete than Burke, so he often covered his own fundamental mistakes by making spectacular diving saves. On the second to last day of tryouts, Coach Davis broke the Titans into two teams for a scrimmage. The teams were pretty evenly matched. Burke was in one goal, Ryan was in the other. Peter was on Burke's team. Before the scrimmage, Peter ran up to Burke. "Don't worry, buddy," he said. "I'll score on him and then you'll have the keeper job." At first, the scrimmage was going just as the drills had gone. Burke was always in the right place. When any shots were taken at him, Burke was ready, so the saves were pretty easy to make.
Okay, so why might it be frustrating for Burke to have to compete for the starting goalkeeper position this year? Why would that be frustrating for him? Logan?
Because maybe he thinks that the other goalie is better.
Do you think that's why? I'm not sure if that would be why exactly. Avery, why do you think it's frustrating for him?
Because usually he's one or on his team that is trying to try out, but he's frustrated because he thinks that Ryan is a little better than him.
Okay, what do you think, Anastasia?
He's frustrated because he thinks that Ryan is a better athlete, and Ryan's also a better goalkeeper than him.
Okay, what do you think, Teddy?
He thinks he's a better athlete, but he might not really be.
Do you think maybe he feels that he should be the goalkeeper because he was the goalkeeper on the team last year when they won state? That could very well be as well, because he was the goalkeeper on the team last year. So he probably feels like the job should be his, yes?
Maybe he just really likes that job and he's more used to it than other jobs. Soccer.
Yeah?
Maybe he thinks he should be it because he won state with them and he saved the team.
Yeah, he was the goalkeeper on the state winning team, so he's probably thinking in his head, I got a lock on this. I was the goalkeeper on the winning team last year. I should have the position this year. Rocco?
He was so frustrated because he didn't catch the ball.
Okay, so he's frustrated because he didn't catch the ball. That is frustrating.
Ryan was running all over the field.
Oh, wait a
At
second.
one point, he charged
I
a...
wanna stop. Who do you think's gonna win it? Who do you think's gonna win? Who thinks Ryan is going to win? Who thinks Burke is going to win? Why do you think Burke is going to win, Ivy?
Because he has he won state, so he's kind of good. And
Ryan.
he's good, but he still can't catch the ball.
Okay, why do you think that, Yanni?
He because Burke held his lead to win the championship last year, but yeah, and Ryan didn't.
Okay, so who thinks Ryan is going to win it? Why do you think Ryan's going to win? Olive?
Because he's kind of like wild, so you never really know when he's gonna do good.
Okay. What do you think, Clark?
Well, you have to be technical and athletic, and it's sometimes more important to be athletic because if you don't know a little about the game, you can kind of like, well, you know what you're doing.
Okay, well, we shall see.
Forward who had the ball in the corner. That left the whole goal wide open, so the forward lofted a pass toward Peter. Peter met the pass in the penalty area. He controlled the ball with his left foot, then blasted it with his right toward the open net. But Ryan's quickness allowed him to get back to the net. He dove across to his right and deflected Peter's pass toward the right post. Another forward pulled the rebound in on the right side of the net. Again, Ryan charged, and the forward put the ball out front. This time, Peter tried to redirect the ball toward the left post. He didn't aim it perfectly, and Ryan dove back on top of the loose ball. Burke's heart sank. He knew that if the same play had happened to him, neither of those shots would have been taken. He would have stopped the first pass, and the play would have been over. But Ryan's wild style allowed him to make two spectacular-looking saves. Even Coach Davis was clapping and yelling. Neither team scored in the scrimmage. Afterward, Coach Davis called Burke over to the sideline. "Burke," he said, "I have an idea." "Idea?" Burke wasn't sure what to say. Then the coach continued. "Have you ever thought about playing another position?" Deflected. If you deflected something that was moving, you made it go in a different direction. New position. Burke decided to be honest with his coach. No, coach," he said. "I've always wanted to be a goalkeeper." Coach Davis put his arm around Burke's shoulder. "Well, you have such great footwork, and you're always in the right place at the right time," Coach Davis said. "I think you might make for a great sweeper." The sweeper plays right in front of the keeper. He is often the keeper's most trusted teammate. The sweeper helps protect the goalkeeper and clears away loose balls in front of the net.
Okay, so what is this chapter about? What is this chapter about? Kelsey?
How they like are playing, and then at the 377th page, it's like his new position.
It's a new position for who?
Or
For Burke. And how do the events in the previous chapter lead to these events? Clark?
Ryan really is really good at goalkeeper, but Burke's really good for like other positions, so they want to keep Ryan at there and maybe change Burke's position.
Okay, very good. Now, what details in the text show that Coach Davis knows his decision might be difficult for Burke to hear? Juliana?
Because he said he always wanted to be a goalkeeper, and so if he gets a new position, he might be sad.
He might be sad. So, and how does Coach Davis know that this might be sad for Burke? What does he do that shows him that Burke is going to be sad about this? What does the coach do? Yes.
He tells him what to do at the position and how close it is to being a goalkeeper.
Okay, but he does something else. Anastasia?
Puts his arm around her shoulder.
He puts his arm around his shoulder. Very good. How do you think Burke feels hearing this? How do you think Burke feels, Elisa?
Sad.
He might feel sad. Yeah, he probably feels sad.
It was a very important position, Burke knew. And since Michael Swenson, the boy who played it last season, had moved, the position was open. Still, Burke wasn't interested in it. "I'd rather play keeper," he said. "I know," Coach Davis said, "but I think I'm going to go with Ryan in goal." Burke was shocked. It had been a long time since he'd cried about anything to do with sports, but he felt like it now. You'll be the backup keeper, Coach Davis continued. And you'll still play all the time because you'll be the sweeper. Burke managed to mutter something that sounded like, okay, but he was still fighting back tears. As the players left the field, he ran off ahead of the group. He changed clothes quickly and got on his bike for the short ride home. One more day of tryouts remained, but Burke already knew where he stood. On the final day of tryouts, he didn't even bring his goalkeeper gloves to the field. He practiced the entire time with the defenders. During a break, Peter ran up to Burke. "What the heck are you doing?" Peter asked. "Why aren't you fighting for the keeper spot?" "Coach told me yesterday," Burke said. He couldn't bear to look at his friend. He kept his eyes fixed on the ground. "I'm going to be sweeper."
So should Burke be happy to play sweeper instead of goalkeeper? What do you think? Libby,
Yeah.
yes, why? Why do you think? Why should he be happy to be a sweeper? Because he gets the loose balls. That's a good idea. What do you think, Kelsey?
He gets to play more.
He gets to play more. Jensen?
Well, if I want it with yes, he should be happy. It's because he gets to play. But if I want it with no, he should be happy. It's because he doesn't really play that position and he might not know what to do.
Okay. Avery, what do you think?
I think that he's kind of like in the middle of upset and happy because he'll still get to like play the game, but I think he's kind of still like upset because he wants to be the goalkeeper and because they want to change him because of him, or not because of him, but he thinks that he should be it, but the coach doesn't think that.
Right. Yeah, yes, those are all good points, boys and girls. Let's read the next page.
"That stinks," Peter said. "At least you'll be on the field all the time with me." Burke smiled a little. Just then, Ryan ran over for a drink of water. He walked right up to the boys. Burke cringed as he prepared for Ryan to gloat. "Hey, Burke," Ryan said. "You're a good keeper. I'm sorry tryouts didn't turn out the way you wanted." Burke was sure Ryan didn't mean what he said. "Yeah," Burke said. "Whatever." "It was a good competition," Ryan said. He held out his hand to Burke. "No hard feelings?" Burke shook Ryan's hand for a quick second. "No hard feelings," he forced out. Ryan trotted away. Competition. If you are in a competition, you are in a contest against another person or team.
You know what I found interesting? The comparison between the two characters, Ryan and Burke here, because it's important to the story because the boys have different playing styles, and the other thing that I noticed is Burke seems to be like a quieter type of person and seems to worry a lot, and that Ryan seems more confident, so it makes this competition more interesting. But the thing that I notice here is that Ryan acts in a way that is contradictory to what Burke expects, because Burke expects Ryan to gloat because he's won the keeper position and he doesn't. Ryan doesn't do that. He's nice about it. He doesn't come up to him and say, "Ha ha, I'm the goalkeeper and you're not." He doesn't do that. He's much nicer about that.
Let the games begin. After just a few weeks of practice, the Titans were ready to begin their season. It would be a long schedule. There were 24 league games, plus 4 weekend tournaments. "Well, boys, we're ready for another great season," Coach Davis began.
You know what? this is what I'm doing. In my head, I'm making predictions about what's going to happen. I'm thinking to myself, well, will Ryan and Burke work well together? Will they make a great team? And you know what I'm thinking? In my head, I'm predicting that they will make a great team and that they'll become good friends. In my head, that's what I'm thinking. I'm predicting that that's what's going to happen. I don't know if anybody else is predicting that. That's what I think.
Last year, we won the state tournament. I know some things are different this year, but I think we can do it again. And we have a new opportunity this year. Whoever wins the state title this year will be invited to play in a national tournament. Now the players were pumped. They couldn't wait to get on the field. When the game began, Burke felt strange. Playing as sweeper meant moving around the field a lot and doing things that he wasn't used to doing. Still, he handled the position well, so Ryan didn't have much work at the net. The Titans controlled play for most of the game. Peter scored a goal late in the first half to give the team a 1-0 lead against their opponents, the Storm. Midway through the half, the Storm pushed the ball down into the left corner of the field. Ryan charged out of the net to challenge the forward. That left the net empty. "Ryan!" Burke yelled. "Get back in the goal!" It was too late.
Oh no. So maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe it's not going to go well. So Burke and Ryan don't seem to be working together. I wonder what's going to happen now to the team with Ryan in goal. So it says in paragraph 7, I read that Ryan charges out of the net, but Burke yells to Ryan to get back in the net. I'm sorry, is that funny? Then the other team scores. This isn't good for Burke's team. I'm beginning to think that maybe Ryan will not be the goalkeeper for very long. I thought they were going to make a great team, but now I think things are not going to go well. So, how do Burke's actions in the game affect Ryan? How do we think? Yes? What do you think? Well, let's read a little more and then we'll see if his actions affect him. Let's keep going.
A Storm player hit the ball into the middle of the field. Burke couldn't get to it, and the Storm's center forward pounded the ball into the open net. Ryan dived, but couldn't reach the shot. A little help. The Storm and the Titans ended the game in a 1-1 tie. The rest of the Titans' season was a lot like that first game. Ryan made some great saves, but his poor fundamental play cost his team several goals. The Titans were scoring as many goals as they had the year before, but they were giving up a lot more. After that first game, when Ryan didn't seem to like Burke's advice, Burke stopped giving it. He did his best job as sweeper, trying to protect Ryan, but he didn't offer Ryan any help in how to play goalkeeper.
So how do Burke's actions in the game affect Ryan? Kelsey?
They made Ryan frustrated because Burke kept trying to give him advice.
Yes, he kept trying to give him advice. So how does Burke's team this year compare to the team last year? Thomas?
Just scoring as many goals.
Yes, they're scoring as many goals, but
Oh,
Anastasia?
Ryan cost them a lot of goals.
But they cost them a lot of goals. What is the main reason why the team isn't doing as well this year? Why aren't they doing as well? Ethan, why aren't they doing as well this year?
Because Ryan wasn't at the goal, and Burke yelled, "Get back in the goal!" But it was too late though. So
Yeah,
that's why-
Ryan's not doing well in goal, right? It's Ryan's poor fundamental plays in the goal. And how does Burke try to fix this? Yes?
By giving him advice,
Does he give him advice?
or by not giving him
Yeah.
advice.
Does Yeah, no. Does it help? No. Ryan doesn't like it, so Burke stops, right? He tries, but he wasn't taking heed of it, so he just stops.
The Titans were barely able to make the league playoffs. After the last game of the regular season, Coach Davis took Ryan aside for a private talk. Burke couldn't hear what they were saying. When the talk was over, Coach Davis called to Burke. Burke ran up to him. "Burke, I think we need to make a change," Coach Davis said. "I'd like to put you back in goal for the playoffs." Burke wasn't sure what to say. "Are you sure?" Burke said. "Ryan's been playing there all year." "It's not working out," Coach Davis said. "If we want to go to nationals, we need you in goal." It was a huge compliment, and Burke knew it. Still, he felt uneasy. Thanks, Coach," he finally said. As the coach walked away, Peter approached. "I heard the great news," he yelled. "That's awesome." "Yeah, awesome," Burke mumbled. "So why don't I feel better?" That night at home, Burke pulled out his goalkeeper gloves. He tried them on. This time, they felt a little funny. Burke stared at the gloves, and things suddenly became clear. That night, Burke phoned Peter and asked if he could meet at the soccer field. "Trust me," Burke told his friend. "I have an idea." Helping out. Burke walked over to Ryan's house. He rang the doorbell and waited. He wasn't sure how Ryan would react to him coming over. After all, they weren't exactly friends. Ryan came to the door. When he saw Burke, he paused for a moment. Then he opened the door and stepped out. "So, did you come over to gloat?" Ryan said. "Not exactly," Burke said. "I have an idea." Ryan looked confused.
How can you tell that Ryan is just as unsure about Burke as Burke is about Ryan? Avery?
Because they're both kind of like, they don't know what to say, and they're both like, Ryan, he seems a little upset, but he's kind of happy for, Bert, but Bert is like, I have an idea, and like, we don't know what the idea is yet, but they both seem a little like,
Yeah, they both seem confused. They're not sure what to do.
Burke didn't worry about what he was about to say. He decided direct honesty was the only way. "Look, you make better saves than I do," Burke said. "But you're not a better goalkeeper than me." "So you did come over to gloat," Ryan shot back. "Just listen," Burke replied. "If we put our skills together, we'd have an awesome goalkeeper. So that's what we need to do." "Huh?" Ryan said. "What are you saying? Are you nuts?" "We need to combine our skills into one keeper," Burke said. "I'll never be able to make some of the amazing saves you make because you're a better athlete than I'll ever be. But you can learn how to play goalkeeper as well as I do." It was all becoming clear to Ryan. "So, you're going to help me with the fundamentals," he said. "Exactly," Burke said. Throughout that weekend, Burke and Peter drilled Ryan on the fundamentals. It wasn't easy, but Ryan was starting to get it. At the next practice, Burke and Ryan approached Coach Davis together. They presented their idea and told the coach what they had already done. Coach Davis seemed pleased. "I'm not sure if this will work," he said, "but I'm proud of you boys for working together to solve this problem. Let's do it."
So how does this chapter end? How does this chapter end? Olive?
This chapter ends with the coach being displeased because the boys worked together to solve a problem, and now they're going to work together to try to stop the other team from scoring goals.
Yes, with them having an idea, telling the coach about their idea. And how did the last chapter end? How'd the last chapter end? Olive?
With Burke when Burke phoned Peter and asked if he could meet him on the soccer field, and told him to
so he had an idea then too. Very good. So why do you think the author ended the chapters like that? Yes?
Because he wanted them to end happy.
So you wanted it to end happy? Do you think he wanted, Kelsey, what do you think?
He wanted to make whoever was reading excited.
So yeah, so you're excited, so you want to read on to find out what happens, right?
Plan in action. It wasn't always smooth, but the plan worked. Burke shouted "Goal" whenever Ryan needed to stay put, and "Now" when he needed to charge. After a few games, Burke didn't need to make the calls anymore. Ryan was figuring it out on his own. Ryan kept making spectacular saves. The Titans easily advanced through the league playoffs and the first 2 rounds of the state tournament. In the state championship, they again faced the Cosmos, just as they had the year before. This was it, their chance to go to nationals for the first time ever. Early in the second half, Burke intercepted a pass at the top of the penalty area. Looking ahead, he heard Peter yell, "Send it," as he took off down the sideline. Burke booted the ball high down the field ahead of Peter. With his speed, Peter beat the defense and controlled the pass. He closed on the Cosmos goal and boomed a heavy shot toward the far upper corner. Intercepted. If you intercepted something, you stopped it from getting where it was going. As the ball hit the webbing of the net, Burke and the rest of the Titans yelled. They were ahead. Now they only needed to protect their lead. Against the Cosmos, it wasn't going to be easy. In the final minute, the Cosmos made one last rush up the field. They moved the ball into the corner, and a Titans defender rushed to challenge. Burke moved to cover a player. But with the game on the line, the Cosmos brought more players into the zone. The Titans defenders couldn't cover them all. The Cosmos player kicked the ball toward the front of the goal. Ryan froze. Burke could tell he was trying to decide if he should run out to try to play it, or if he should stay in the goal. Ryan stayed put. He saw the ball going toward an unguarded player near the penalty kick dot. Ryan prepared for the shot. He crouched low and kept his hands ready. When the ball bounced off the player's foot, Ryan was ahead of it. His sprawling dive met the ball perfectly, and instead of knocking it away, Ryan caught it. He clutched it tightly as time expired.
Oh.
Sprawling. If you move in a sprawling way, you spread out your arms and legs.
So how is the play between Peter and Burke a good example of teamwork? How is it a good example of teamwork? Teddy?
Counting on each other.
They what?
They were counting on each other.
They were counting on each other. Did they do anything specifically that was a good example of teamwork? Olive?
They worked together to make Ryan better at the goalie.
Yes, very good. They worked together.
The Titans were champions again. Peter and Burke rushed to their keeper. Ryan still held the ball to his chest. You did it, Burke yelled. You did it. Ryan looked him in the eye. No, we did it, Ryan said.
Oh, so they won. Good one. So boys and girls, how is Ryan different than Burke as a goalkeeper? Juliana?
He does different moves as better.
Okay, he does different moves. What else is different about him? Please don't do that to your chair. Teddy?
They each play different positions, but they're equally as good as each other.
Well, how about when they're keepers, as goalkeepers?
One of them is better at like the techniques, but the other one is better at being an athlete.
Okay, so one is better at the technical parts, one of them is just a better athlete. How does Burke feel about being the sweeper on the team? Yanni? the way Burke and Ryan think of each other change by the end of the story? Ivy?
That Bert and Ryan, they didn't like each other at the start of the story because Ryan was not good at catching the ball and Bert was.
Okay.
But now at the end of the story, they decided to work together and now they're really nice.
Yes. They become friends. Do you think they learn to respect each other?
Yes.
Yes. Very good. So you'll have to read this story tonight. Good job, boys and girls.